Hey guys, it's Monica at Academic Phoenix Plus, and welcome to another tutorial. And today we're going to be talking about hair. In my social media, I had asked, what should I create? Should I create hair geo or should I create XGen? 75% wanted XGen, so this is going to be an XGen tutorial in hair, just the fundamentals. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is hide her hair. So let's go ahead and hide her hair. There she is. She's got subsurface and all sorts of stuff going on. The next thing you need to do is create a scalp. Now, I did already create a scalp, and this is just the shape of her head, but if you're curious how I did that, I just duplicated it, removed the faces that I didn't want, assigned a Lambert to it, and put it back. Control D to duplicate. Okay, now that I have this, another thing you have to realize is the size of your character really does impact the size of the hair. So notice that my character's head is about the size of the grid, and that's going to impact the size of the XGen hair. So just keep an eye on your scale. Okay, so I have my scalp selected, and the first thing I'm going to do is go under modeling, and we are going to go to generate, create interactive groom splines. And right away, we have a little bit of fuzz. I'm going to go ahead and select a scalp and just hide it for now. It doesn't really make much of a difference, except it does make a difference when it comes to, you know, moving it, but it's right on top of her head, so she should be fine. And you'll notice that the XGen hair is not exactly great. It's a bunch of rectangles and very, it's just rectangles, but it's always fun to see what it looks like. I'm going to press escape and stop. As you can see, no surprise there. It is literally rectangles on her head. So how do we get this to look like hair? Well, the first thing you'll notice is over here to the right is that a window popped up called the XGen Interactive Editor. And you can see that there's a description and it's got sculpts. Open that up. We have a sculpt layer, we have scale and description base. We also have a bunch of attributes. So you can click Control A, but lucky for us is our workspace up here called XGen Interactive Groom. So I'm going to go ahead and activate that, and it brings up the attribute editor, which has a description, scale, and sculpt, and also the tool settings, which is going to come in handy later. So make sure you're in the attribute editor, and let's talk about the description base. Description base is the width scale of the hair. So right now, if I increase the size of this hair, I can get really big rectangles, but really I just want it to be relatively small. So I'm going to try to go for around 0.03. So now it's looking more like spikes. And just to demonstrate, taper is also important because it will make your rectangles look more like a point, which is more accurate to hair. So you might want to decrease the taper and then also maybe kind of work on the taper start as well. Okay, so now that I have that, let me go ahead and change it to 0.03, maybe 0.04, just to make sure I can see some hair. All right, so let's render just because it's always fun to see the difference. So this is what it looked like before. Gonna take a snapshot of it, hit play. Very quickly, I created a porcupine. So now you guys know how to create porcupines. Okay, let me take a snapshot of that as well, just because it's fun seeing the progress. Let's talk about scale. So scale is the size of the hair. So right now the scale is at 1. So if I increase my scale, I can make her have, you know, bigger hair, or I can make her have more like a buzz cut. So it's really up to you what type of hair scale you want. I'm going to just increase it to 1.5 for now. And of course, I can always change it. Next, let's go to the description base, which is the density. The density is the area where you're going to increase how much hair there actually is. So as you can see, by changing my density multiplier to 5, I have significantly more hair. So let's see what that looks like. All right, we're getting there. Definitely looks more like hair. I can always add more hair, but I'm just going to leave it relatively low. I can add more later, but right now I'm just going to be grooming. Okay, so now that we have this hair, the next thing I want to do is start to sculpt it. It's known as grooming, and grooming is actually a position in some of the major studios. So if you like to groom dogs and just create a bunch of fur, this is the way you can do it. What I'm going to do is we have a sculpt layer, and you'll notice that if I go to 0 to 1, nothing's happened because we really haven't sculpted much. So the first thing I'm going to show you guys is how to use this fancy tool called the comb tool. I'm going to click on the comb tool, and you're going to see this almost like it's a brush. And this brush is what's going to move the hair in a particular direction depending on which way I'm drawing. This is where the tools come in. Right now we are in the attributes. Let's go to the tool settings. And this is the area where you can control it. I'm going to reset my tool because I was messing around with it earlier. And this is probably the default that you guys have. So I can actually go in and start painting the direction of the hair. Now, one of the challenges, though, is that you'll notice that the hair is only being impacted by one, and I would really like to happen on the other side as well. So let me just undo what I have been creating here. Poof. And again, we're going to be using the tool settings and turn on symmetry object X. Now, depending on which way your character is facing. My character is facing positive Z, which you guys can see here, so X will work just fine. So whatever I do on one side, it will impact the other. So I only need to focus on one. Now, right now the strength is, I think it's kind of high, so I'm going to drop it up to 25%. And I also think the brush size is too small. It's very detail oriented, and I really want to kind of get a broad stroke first. So I can increase this here manually, or if you hold down the letter B, as in Bumblebee, middle mouse and drag left to right, you can scale or decrease the size of the brush, which is very handy. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a brush and just start grooming to this down. So I'm just going to kind of push the hair down. And you'll notice that I'm getting a little bit of that penetrating the geometry. And we really don't want that. So I'm going to undo this. And the next thing you need to do, check on collide with mesh. So now when I start painting, it will avoid that area. It won't penetrate the mesh. So let me go ahead and give her a little bit of a kind of like slick back look. This is probably more appropriate for, I guess, guys, but whatever. This is going to be more like, I'm hoping I can get kind of like a cyberpunk. So it'll be cool. All right. So depending on how much you want to go for, again, hold down B. You can go a little smaller and just start getting those details around the ears. Right. So you can kind of bring in that hair, push that hair around, make it go a different direction. You can always trim it later. Just kind of push things around so it's looking kind of, it's going to a particular direction. There we go. All right, let's see what our, whoops, forgot the top. Let me get that in there. Got a little bit of flyaways here, but that's okay. Let's see what it looks like so far. All right, let's press play. All right, so it looks like she took a shower and her hair is wet and slicked back. So if you want to make it look wet, that's one way of doing it. But let's go ahead and move forward and explore some other tools. Another tool that you probably want to play around with is the smooth tool. If you select the smooth tool, it's going to help smooth out your strokes. So if you feel like you kind of didn't do the best job, smoothing the hair out or painting it, this kind of helps it kind of transition from one to the other a little bit smoother. All right, cool. It's looking pretty good. Maybe a little bit smoothing up the top here. Grab the move tool again, or the comb tool, and just kind of push that back again. Make sure this hair actually sticks back. There we go. That's better. Got a couple other ones. All right, I'm being too picky. Okay, moving on. All right, so if you take a look at the sculpt layer, if I go back to 0, you'll see that I can go and change things. So if you felt like you pushed this a little too far, you can always bring it back. So now she's got a little bit more puffy look. All right, so this is going to be my direction. So I'm going to call it direction. Then I'm going to add another sculpt layer. You want to make sure that you click on edit to make sure that any type of changes you're about to do is going to affect this sculpt layer. And the other one I wanted to show you guys is clumping. So I'm going to call this one clumping. And what it does, and again, take a look at the tools. I'm going to reset it. And I can manipulate it just like anything else. I'm going to make sure that, well, I guess we can see the effect first. It will clump the hair for you. And this one's a little too much, of course, because the strength is 100%, but I just wanted to demonstrate to you what it does. Now, don't forget to make sure the symmetry is on to Object X. Otherwise, the other side won't get symmetry. So now I can go in, and I still feel it's a little strong, and just kind of go in and just kind of help clump the hair. Maybe reduce the size here. And this is going to help kind of maybe get rid of those little flyaways here that's penetrating and just kind of make sure that it clumps the hair. This is pretty normal for hair to clump. Now, what's interesting about clumping hair is that it also affects when your hair is wet. So, or if it's dirty. So if you're trying to create a character that's dirty, whoops, that's too much. Or it had like a, you know, it went through mud. Your character has gone through mud, or, you know, it got wet, things like that, or the animal, if that's what you're working on, got wet or anything, then you can actually go in and make it clumpy, really clumpy. All right, I'm going to smooth this out. So let's go ahead and smooth. I feel like I made it a little too strong in some areas. I can always go in and comb a little bit. So if I feel it's a little too strong, I can. And again, you can always decrease the clump so it's not so strong. All right, let's add another sculpt layer. I'm going to drag this one to the top so the effect impacts everything. Bink. And this one is going to be the length. A lot of people like to know, how do you control the length? Well, this is the way you can do it. I'm going to make sure I'm in edit. Let's go to length. And we have two types. One is to cut it and one is to give it length. So if I want length, let's say on one side, and I'm going to go ahead and turn off my symmetry because maybe I just want length on one side, I can go in and add length. So I have this here and I'm going to increase my strength so you guys can see the effect. And you can see right away that increases the length really well. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of decrease that and just kind of go in and try to just kind of add a little bit of extra length onto this character. Now it is going to do some interesting stuff, so keep that in mind. But I'm just trying to demonstrate to you guys, this is getting funny, that it will impact that part. Now let's say I want to just lengthen one side. So I wanted to show you another fancy trick, which is the freeze. So over here, we have something called freeze. And what you can do is kind of paint half of the hair like so. And then I can go in and grab the length tool and basically lengthen it. And it won't impact the part that's frozen. So you can see that I've lengthened it. And of course you can reduce the length if you need to over here. And then I can go in and start moving it. So again, if I feel like this is too much, I'm going to go ahead and start combing it. I'm going to comb everything to the side here. And maybe down. It looks crazy right now, but let me just maybe increase my strength here of my tool so it really pushes the length here, or the direction of the hair. Something like that. I can also use this smooth tool again to smooth out my edges. Whoops. Now I'm going to undo that because I need to make sure collide with mesh is on so it doesn't mess that up. But I'm going to go ahead and smooth that to try to make it look a little bit cleaner. Cool. And then when you're done with freeze, you need to select that tool and click. You can invert it and do something else to the other side, or you can just unfreeze all. All right, she's got long hair on one side, very straight. Let's grab a different tool, pink. Okay, so that shows you a little bit of that freeze tool. So again, just for fun, let's render. All right, you can see one side is kind of long, the other one's very short. And again, you guys can control it using this. Okay, cool. Let's add another sculpt tool. Again, I'm going to bring this to the top, and this is going to be the cut tool. So this one's going to be interesting because what it does is exactly what it sounds like. It's going to cut. So I'm going to grab the cut tool, and you're going to see that my brush is huge, and I'm going to reset my tool so that it looks like yours. And the default, now be careful. This looks like, got to make sure that you don't, make sure symmetry's off. You can always click reset. You can go in and it will remove the hair for you automatically. You have to disregard that. That's a texture issue. But what I can do now is go in and just kind of cut her hair. So let's say I want maybe, I'm going to go ahead and reduce size of my brush. So you can go ahead and just make it a little bit. And maybe I want to go in and give her a peace sign. Ooh, that was terrible. Something like that. And if you want that area to be a little bit shorter, then that's where you play around with the min remaining length. So right now it's a 0.1. So if I want to, I can decrease it and go in and reduce the trim as well. So I'm not a fan of that design. So let me go ahead and try again. This time I'm going to do about 0.2 and just kind of give her a little bit of that mohawk cut. All the way to the end. Hopefully I don't cut her long hair. Whoop, just be careful. Now, if you want to give her more of a cut, then, you know, like maybe one area is a little bit longer than the other one, you can always go in and just kind of cut this by 0.5 and just go in and just give her even a bigger shave. So let's say 0.6 in this case. I'm going to go in and just kind of shave her hair. Again, it's kind of fun. The shave's not too much, so maybe 0.5 might be a better shave. So let's go ahead and go in and just give her a little bit of a sharper cut there. Ooh. I'm going to give her an artistic cut here. Let's see. Maybe I'll go over here and just cut her hair. All right, I'm just having fun. Can you tell that I'm just having fun? I'm going to push this hair a little bit forward. Smooth it out a little bit for the sake of smoothing. Whoop. Give her like this interesting haircut. All right, so I got a shave on the left. I've got a haircut on the right with long hair. And of course, you guys can continue playing around with it, but hopefully that gives you an idea of how to use XGen. Let's talk a little bit about, oops, and you know what big mistake I made? I forgot to click on cut. So make sure you don't do that because now all of the work that I just did is now under length instead of like cut. So that's too bad. So that gives me a limited amount of things I can use. But you can see that I have a lot of interesting things going on here. It's very powerful. You can create some great designs on this character, and you can do so much. Oh, one last thing before I forget, let's add a little bit of noise. Right now, everything's really flat. It'd be great to add a little bit of noise into this. So there are something called add modifiers, and one of them is called a noise. And if I select that noise modifier and take a look at the attributes, make sure you're in noise, you can mess around with the frequency, but it gives it a little bit more life to the hair. So right now I have a lot of magnitude, so you can kind of give it a lot of magnitude or just kind of calm down the magnitude. But it just gives it a little bit more information to the hair, so it's not so perfect. All right, let's render this out. Let's see what it looks like on this side. Oops, I just added a keyframe. If you accidentally add a keyframe, just right click on it and say remove key. And the other thing I'm going to do is increase my density multiplier because right now I don't have that much hair. So let's go ahead and just give her a little bit more hair so that, you know, it looks more realistic. So now she's got significantly more hair. And let me change a couple of things. I like that. All right, so I have increased the number of hair and you can see that she's getting a nice little buzz cut and looks nice and soft. Let's talk a little bit about texture. So if you grab the description of your hair, of your XGen, and you move this all the way to the right, you're going to see something called physical hair shader. And you can change the colors here. Blue roots and pink tips. You will see the effect. There you go. Another thing that you can do, and I'm going to go ahead and undo to go back to default. You do have control over highlight hair. So for example, I have seen people change their highlight hair to like a red. So if you dye your hair in that manner, you can totally do that as well here in Maya hair attribute. You also have secondary and a bunch of other stuff, which we can probably talk about all of this stuff in a separate tutorial. But if you guys want to get a little bit more color, you definitely can. So let me just go ahead and have a little bit of fun with this by changing it a little bit from light blue to dark blue and render. And of course, if you guys want to put a particular pattern on there, you can. So for example, let's say the tip color, I'm going to go ahead and put on a map. So let's say I want to add a checker map, which is a black and white image, as you can see. You can also put your own map on there. Now it's a little hard to see because the base is a different color, so you might want to attach the same map. And there you go. You can see that it now looks more like a brick. The dark areas do have a little bit of brown because of the melanin, which again we can talk about in a different video tutorial, but very quickly you can change her hairstyle. So let's take a look at this side, which is also pretty cool. The long side. I'm going to take a snapshot of this just because it's kind of fun. And let's render the other side. And there you go. This is what it looks like. Looks like she's got streaks in different colors. So as you can see, there's a lot of really great things that you can do with XGen. Hopefully you found that helpful. Let me know by leaving a comment below. But we covered a lot. We covered sculpt, scale, description, noise, and a little bit of texture, and so much more. So let me know what you guys thought by leaving a comment below. Do you guys want more XGen? Do you want me to show you how to create curves and things like that so you have a little bit more of a diverse hairstyle? Let me know. Also, if you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. That would be amazing if you guys could do that because that really encourages me to make more videos like this. So please like, share, and subscribe. And finally, take a look at academicphoenixplus.com where you will find free videos, free ebooks, free 3D models, and so much more. So take a look at academicphoenixplus.com where you will find so many things for you for free. So thank you again for spending the time with me. Keep creating, and I will see you next time.